In trading, knowledge is power, and lack of knowledge in what you're doing can be costly, very costly. So you need a solid foundation of quality market education. Whether you're new to trading or a seasoned veteran looking to add advanced strategies to your arsenal, there's always something to learn and something to improve on. And now you can access the same knowledge that professional traders receive with Market Rebellion's Trading Education. I'm Bill Johnson, Head of Options Education here at Market Rebellion, and we've assembled a comprehensive curriculum based on decades of real trading experience, covering everything you need to know about trading options from beginner to advanced. We go way beyond the nuts and bolts of options theory to teach you how to apply specific trading strategies and the techniques needed to adapt your trades when markets shift. Regardless of your goals, you'll gain access to the education you need with easy-to-consume lessons so you can learn to trade with confidence, enhance your knowledge, and master the practical skills required for market success. So please join us for in-depth trading education only from Market Rebellion. Hey, good morning. Once again, Market Rebels, and yes, I did say morning. We are coming to you at 4 p.m. on YouTube, but we are today recording this early, so we don't have an update for you on how the markets finished. But hopefully, we'll keep up with this rally here. But we've got a very cool topic, Stu, and this kind of I got the idea from you. I think you were doing a coaching session with somebody.
Was. Yeah.
And about a reverse split, if I remember correctly, was the deal?
Yes.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
that causes
was very
a
confused. He thought somebody printed money for him.
yeah. And brokers get confused. It can
Yeah.
be a very confusing topic.
Yeah.
So we thought, why not? Let's talk about it. So our Chalk Talk question for you, or a little thought-provoking question. We want you to jot down an answer. We'll come back at the end and answer it for you. But let's say you own a $5 call, trading for 30 cents. That's the market price, and the stock's at 4. So it's out of the money. It's really plummeted, and the stock does a 1-for-10 reverse split. That gets announced in the news, and the question is,
send me a check. Where do you send the check?
How is your option adjusted?
Sorry.
Right. Now, we're going to give you a little clue here where people get tripped up, because what they know, they say, well, the stock's price is going to get bumped up by a factor of 10. We'll talk about that later. They'll say, well, the stock's going to be trading for 40, and I've got the $5 call.
Yeah, I just made $35.
And I think that's what your guy was talking about, right? Yeah. Very common question that we get from people. So what we want to talk about today is, there we go, how do stock splits affect options? And we're going to talk about all kinds of splits. Now, also, a little footnote for everybody: don't panic if you don't follow the math. Your broker will adjust these automatically for you. But what we want to do is to show you why it's happening. So if nothing else, you're going, hey, did I get ripped off here? Something's funny's going on. We're going to show you nothing at all changed in terms of the values.
But and I can tell you that the markets of these adjusted options, the world has a way of getting it right.
Yeah.
It might look like a mistake.
That's right.
It can't be that way. But I can pretty much tell you that it's going to be right.
Correct.
It is going to be right.
So we're just going to, the purpose of this is to show you the math behind it. But again, don't worry about saying that, well, I need to go figure this stuff out and do some conversions. It'll all happen automatically. We just want you to know why it's happening.
Yeah. And the explanation is in the memo, which we're going to show you how to get to as well.
Yep. So let's start off with a big question. Why would a company split shares? Well, there's a number of reasons, but generally it's because of a psychological perception. If the price is too low, and I know that's relative, but if it gets to a level, it kind of appears to be junk. And if the price is too high, people say, well, it's clearly overvalued, or I simply can't afford it. But when it lands in the Goldilocks zone, wherever that may be, studies have shown that stocks tend to perform better. They have better returns if they are in this magical zone. Now, back in the day, it used to be somewhere between 30 and 100. Stocks aren't splitting as much as they used to, but there's still this perception. Now,
They're
also, a lot of
starting to.
institutions will not.
They're starting to again. We've had some. They're
We've
starting
had
to
some,
do it again.
yeah,
Yeah.
just not. It used to be back when a stock hit
All the
100,
time it was going on.
you knew it was gonna, you knew it was coming.
You knew it was coming. When that stock hit 100, you knew it
You
was
knew
coming.
it was a matter of time before that
Yep.
announcement, right?
3 for 2,
Not
2 for
so
1.
anymore.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So stock splits alter the stock prices. And another reason too is that if they get too cheap, a lot of institutions, just from their own bylaws, can't buy things below $10. A lot of the exchanges, NASDAQ, for instance, minimum listing requirement is $4.
Yeah, I was
Got
gonna
to have
say
it.
that. Sometimes they have to meet that listing requirement.
And if it falls below $1, they absolutely will get booted. So you know if a NASDAQ stock falls below $1, a reverse split is coming, assuming they don't want to get booted. And again, institutions generally can't buy below $10. So there's a lot of reasons why a company will want to alter this price. But again, we're going to show you nothing really changes. It's more for psychological reasons. Now,
The
within the
money
family of
everyone, the money is staying the same.
Yep. Within the family of splits, we have forward splits, usually just called a split, but the technical name is a forward split. And then we have reverse splits. So these are the two different flavors, and we're going to start off with those, and we'll get into reverse splits. First, before we do, quick reminder, marketrebellion.com/get started. More topics just like that, over 40 of them, Stu, to be exact. No sign in, lots of great information to help you become better with options. So now that brings up a question. If companies aren't really changing their prices, I'm sorry, they are changing their prices, how can they just do that? If my stock is trading for 5, why can't I suddenly make it worth Berkshire Hathaway? And it's a good question. Go, well, that doesn't seem fair if they can alter their prices. Well, they don't really alter their prices. They
It
do
looks
it,
like they do, but they
looks
don't.
like they do. What they're really doing is they alter the number of shares, which in turn alters the prices.
Mhm.
So what's really happening is this. Think of all of these splits that we do as one of two things. A forward split, walking into a bank with a $100 bill and saying, hey, I've got one piece of paper, I'd like to get two. And the bank says, okay, well, if you want to split that into two pieces, what happens to the value? Face value went from 100 to 50. So we multiply the number of pieces of paper by 2, but we cut the value of each piece in half. That's all
Bill,
that's happening.
quick, real super quick timeout. So a lot of the people that are watching, you're already familiar with this idea. You may
Oh
not
yeah,
even
of
know,
course. Yeah.
but like here's an example. So there's a lot of chatter these days. It's actually been around for quite some time about these stock buybacks. So what like Elizabeth Warren, I think she was talking about stock buybacks a few months ago. The When a company buys their shares back, there's less shares out there.
That's right.
So what does that do? So that changes their earnings per share. See, now all of a sudden it looks like they're doing better
That's right.
when
It's
the
just
business
right.
didn't really change.
Yeah, it's just a
So
different way of
it's a
doing.
similar concept that's going on here.
It's exactly the same concept. Yep.
Yeah,
You're just
yeah,
altering the shares, and the shares in turn alter the price.
right.
So if we do a reverse split, now you're walking into a bank with two pieces of paper, each is worth 50, and you say, I'd like to reduce that to only one piece. Well, the bank says, all right, if you only want one piece of paper, we're going to double the value. They used to be worth 50 a piece, now they're worth 100. Mathematically, whether you did a regular split or a reverse split, when you walk out of the bank, you're no better and no worse off. That's important because, again, a lot of new traders say, hey, something funny is going on. They totally ripped me off here. It's a disadvantage for the long, it's a disadvantage for the short. It's exactly equal for everybody for this very reason. So let's dig a little deeper and see what exactly happens in the markets. Let's start with a forward split. Remember, there's two different categories here. We have a whole number split and we have a fractional split. All right, so these are still regular stock splits, but they come in two categories. So now let's start with whole number splits. These two are really easy to identify. They'll be announced in the headlines. You won't miss them. But they're always a pair of numbers, whether it's a forward or a reverse or a fractional. It's always a pair of numbers, but the second number is always a 1. And that's how you can tell that it's a whole number split. 2 for 1, 3 for 1, 4 for 1, things like it. 20 for 1 in the
20 for
case of
1, Amazon, Google, 20 for 1. Yep.
Yep. Uh, who else did? Apple did a 7 for 1. Those are always whole number splits.
Tesla did. I forget. One of them was 4 or 5, and Tesla did 4 or 5. I don't forget which one.
Yeah.
Apple did a 4 or 5 as
So whenever
well.
you see that, it's a whole number split. And what this means is it's going to leave you with a whole number of shares afterwards. There's not going to be any fractionals. You'll see why that is when we look at fractionals. But on a whole number split, it's just not going to matter. However many shares you have, whether it's 1 or 13 or 117, you're still going to have a whole number afterwards. It's not going to leave you with like a half a share that they have to, we'll find out, pay you in cash. Always, that's why it's called a whole number split. So whenever you see a split, whether it's a whole number, a fractional, a reverse, you name it, we're going to show you a very easy system. You're going to simply divide the first number by the second. So let's do a 2 for 1 split. 2 divided by 1 is 2. That's the magic number, and we're going to call that the split ratio. And what you will do is you will multiply the number of shares outstanding, or this is what the company is doing, by 2, and you will divide the stock price by 2. So notice the method here. This is what's going to be the theme throughout the entire thing. The shares, number of shares out there, or in the case of options, the number of shares that you're controlling gets multiplied, and the price, whether it's the price per share, the price for your option, those all get divided. It's just that simple, and it's for exactly the same reason we saw with the $100 bill. That's all that's going on. So now let's ask a question. All right, they can't just snap their fingers and change the price, but they can alter the shares outstanding. Well, that seems kind of weird too, Stu, doesn't it? How can they just change the number of shares? Well, it's actually pretty slick. You've all heard of a dividend, right? A cash dividend or a special dividend where they pay you a check. They send you cash. Well, what they're doing here is what's called a stock dividend. And so if they have a 2 for 1 split, the way that it works is the company issues what's called a 1 for 1 dividend. And that means that the company pays you 1 share for every 1 share that you currently have, which gives you 2 shares. There's your 2 for 1 split. And so now, as we just talked about, with twice as many shares floating around in the market, the price has to be half the value for exactly the reason that if you cash in a $100 bill for two pieces of paper, it's got to get cut in half. So this is the way that they do it. The company just gives you these shares. They're slicing up the pie into more pieces. There's nothing illegal about that. It's just changing the forms. So let's take a look here. Prior to the split, let's say our company has 1 million shares outstanding and the stock is trading for 100. What's the rule? What do we do with our shares outstanding? We multiply. So how many shares do we have afterwards? 2 million. What's the rule for the prices? Anything that's a price, prices get divided by that split ratio. There's 50. Notice that prior to the split, the company is worth 100 times 1 million shares was worth 100 million. And after the split, they're worth how much? Didn't change a thing. We're just changing. It's exactly like changing a $100 bill for 250s.
So notice money, dollars haven't changed.
Dollars haven't changed at all.
Components of how to get the dollars changed, but
Exactly.
the end of the day money is exactly the same.
You're not better off. You're not worse off. It's just a different composition, which leads to another interesting point. Why is there so much fanfare over stock splits? I think it used to be one of the reasons for splitting is that they say, well, maybe people, especially like for an IRA, I like to buy in 100 share lots, but I don't have $10,000 cash.
Yeah.
And I can't contribute money. But if they cut, what's that? But if they cut the share price,
Now I can. And so they're thinking that maybe they can get this kind of a temporary boost in buying pressure because the stock price was just too high. People just aren't buying it. And if they bring the price down, they can. It's a slim argument because they're also increasing the number of shares and it becomes harder to move the price. But anyway, that's what's going to happen to the stock. What about for a 4-for-1 split? Let's do one more, Stu.
Okay.
Million shares outstanding, stocks at 100. What do y'all think out there in YouTube land? What's the rule? 4-for-1 split. We take 4 divided by 1. What do we do with shares? Shares get multiplied by that ratio. So after the split, there's 4 million shares outstanding. What happens to prices? Prices get divided by that ratio.
25%.
There you go. Prior to the split, market cap was 100 million. After the split, 100 million. Now you just swapped out a $20 bill for 4 5s type of thing, right? We don't have
So,
20,
and we're
we
going
have
to talk about
$25
this
bills, but same idea.
when you see your options doing weird things, your
Yep.
option
Nothing's
relative
happening.
to the stock price, you're going to your eyes are going to spin off your head there. You're going to we're going to tell you what the missing link is.
Yeah.
And I'll
For the
tell you
reverse
now.
splits. There's a little bit of a twist there.
So it's a twist, but it makes it right. It
exactly
makes
right.
this correct.
It still follows this same logic here. You'll see.
Yes, it does. Yes.
So how do forward splits affect your shares? Well, it's easy. In exactly the same way. All right, so if you have 200 shares at $400 per share, the position is worth 80,000. It does a 4-for-1 split. What's the rule? 4 divided by 1 is 4. Shares get multiplied. Prices get divided. You're going to have 800 shares at 100. We used to have 200 multiplied by 4. Prices get divided. But before and after, it's still worth the same amount. Just making change. That's it. All right, now let's get into the options. How do whole number splits affect your options? In a very similar way. But we have to remember when we have options, we don't really have shares. We have contracts that control shares. But if you just make that little twist, you'll see it. So let's say that we
shares do they control, Bill?
I'm sorry?
Contracts, how many shares does the
generally 100.
100. Keep that in mind, everyone.
That's
100 shares. When you look at a listed option, it is, unless otherwise stated, it is
Unless
going
otherwise
to be 100 shares.
Right. So let's say the number of contracts, which I want you to think of as shares. What happens to shares? They get multiplied. What happens to prices? All prices get divided by this ratio. All right. Shares get multiplied, prices get divided. So what's going to happen to your strike? Well, a strike is a price, right? In fact, we call it a strike price. It's the price you're going to have to pay if you exercise, so it gets divided. And if you have an options price in the market, that's obviously a price. It gets divided. But the options total value remains the same. Total exercise value remains the same. So let's take a look here. You have one call trading for $10 prior to a split. You have the $100 strike, right? So this is the market price, not a $10 call or $10 strike. It's $10. After the split, what's the rule? The number of shares get multiplied. I had 100 shares. Think of it that way. How many do I have afterwards, Stu? 200 shares or 2 calls. What happens to prices? Prices get divided. I have 2 calls trading for 5. What happens to my strike?
What happens to my Greeks here? Oh, wait, that's another topic.
That's a whole different topic. Whole different topic. We've actually talked about that before, though, with your gamma, right?
We did one. Yeah, gamma.
That can explode.
Explodes.
So our strike gets divided. So we've got 2 $50 calls trading for 5.
Uncle Stewie learned that the hard way many years
ago. Most people did, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Prior to the split, we had $1,000. We had 1 call trading for 10 times 100 shares per contract. We could sell it for $1,000. If we have 2 calls trading for 5, that's also $1,000. But also notice that the exercise value is 10,000. If I have 1 call and I exercise for 100, that's 100 per share times 100 shares per contract. Going to cost me 10,000 to exercise.
That's kind of your like check. That's your check and balance.
It's just a check. If you want to kind of go through the math and find out what's happening, it's just another check. If I have two calls at 50 and I'm not required to exercise both, but it's part of your check.
Yeah.
If we exercise the full lot, that would also cost 10,000. So what's changed? Nothing really. It's just changing the form. All right, so everybody see that. That's the method you always want to divide these out. Shares get multiplied, prices get divided. And it's just that simple. So now, let's go into the world of fractional splits.
Oh,
What are fractionals?
this gets confusing.
This can get a little confusing. Now, we're going to find out, though, if you use this method, it's exactly the same. Fractionals have a second number that is not a 1. So you'll see things like 3 for 2, 5 for 4, 8 for 7, all kinds of strange things that can happen. But as long as that second number is not a 1, it is a fractional split. What
No,
does
I'm
that
looking at a headline here for GameStop, our
Oh,
old
yeah?
friend GameStop. GameStop implemented, and ready for this? I've actually never seen this. 11 for 10
Wow.
stock split effective October
Yeah, they're
3rd.
just bumping up the float by 10%, right? Yep. So
Interesting.
there's all kinds of ways it can do it. So these are not going to be a full doubling of the float or tripling. These are trying to increase it in this case by 50%. So they can do these fractional splits. Now, why are they called fractionals? Because these can leave you with fractional shares, as we'll find out. Or even if you have shares of stock, right? If you have, this just means the company is going to give you 3 shares for every 2 that you have. So if you have 3, you can have 2. If you have 6, you can have 4. But what if you have 1? What if you have 5? See, now you can end up where they have to say, well, we'll give you what we can, but if there's any leftovers, any fractions, we'll pay you in cash, what's called cash in lieu.
Cash and load.
So that's why these are called fractionals. They can leave you with fractional shares, but the math is the same. Divide the first number by the second. So we're going to do a 3 for 2 split. What's 3 divided by 2? 1.5. What's the rule? Multiply the shares by 1.5, divide the price by 1.5. It's exactly the same math. So for a 3 for 2 split, we have 1 million shares outstanding in our company. Let's say the stock is 150, doing it just to make the math easy. What's the rule? We multiply the shares by this ratio, 3 divided by 2. We multiply by 1.5. We have 1.5 million shares outstanding. What happens to a price? We divide by 1.5. So you have, the stock is now at 100. Market cap before is 150 times a million is 150 million. After the split, nothing has changed. All right. So that's just.
So, Bill,
Mhm.
another side note here. Sorry, man, I can't help myself. So on that 11 for 10 GameStop,
Yeah,
they're increasing their outstanding shares by 10%.
correct.
Okay, so let's think about that for a second. Like, why would they want to do that? Well,
Uh,
the first thing that came in mind for me was, well, this stock traditionally has had a really high short interest. Big pressure, selling pressure on the stock.
mhm.
So if they made more shares available, this is my like kind of conspiracy theory thing going on. If if they made more shares available, then the hard to borrow becomes not as much hard to borrow, and perhaps it now becomes easier to sell shares, which could put more pressure on the downside. Or you could kind of say it the other way: there's more shares available. If there's more shares available, maybe that makes it more interesting to trade because now it could actually lower the
Short interest
the
ratio.
the
Yeah.
race, yeah, the
Yeah.
short thing.
And I think those are all good thoughts. The one thing is people typically trade in dollar amounts. So if you're willing to short 10,000 worth, you're still going to probably short that same amount. It's just going to be 50% more or whatever that ratio is. So a lot of times that could be a short-term patch, but it's not going to get them out of the weeds. But good thought. Yeah. So does everybody see how the math works? Multiply the shares, divide all of the prices. All right. Quick reminder, marketrebellion.com/get started. Over 40 courses just like this. Okay, how do fractional splits affect options? Well, we're going to find out it's exactly the same. Now, fractional splits may not work for all options positions. This is where we can get have to get off the train here a little bit. It can get a little bit weird. So if you have a 3-for-2 split, we found out we have a 1.5 split ratio. Well, what if you have one call? You can't have 1.5 calls, right? If you had 3, you could get 2. But if you have, it's not going to work for everybody. So you have to say the exchanges had to come up with a different solution. And what they'll do here is they'll say they change the number of shares in the contract. But again, it's exactly the same math. So remember, as Stu said, we generally have 100 shares per contract unless otherwise stated. Your broker's platform will show it as an adjusted option. And
Yeah,
this
it's like kind of in parentheses. It might say like
Yep,
5/100.
exactly. And they're gonna, or even just they might just highlight it in red to let you know, hey, this is not or they might call
Yeah.
it a non-standard option.
You can kind of tell by just looking at the strike and the price of the
Oh
stock.
yeah, exactly. You can
It's
get
like
some
something's
weird
off.
strikes.
Let me figure out what it is.
Yeah. So if you have 100 shares per contract, it's now going to be 150 shares per contract.
Mhm.
This is where it can get a little odd for people to follow it. So let's say we have one call trading for 6 and we have the 150 strike. It announces a 3-for-2 split. What's the rule? The rule is we divide all prices by the split ratio. Is that a price right there? Yeah, it's a price you
so.
pay. It gets divided. You have a $4 call. So it looks like you got hosed here, Stu. Hey, it used to be trading for 6, now it's trading for 4. But what happens to shares? What's the rule for shares? Multiply the shares. We're not really dealing in share, we're dealing in contracts. But again, if you think of the shares they control,
deliverable
the
shares.
deliverable, you're multiplying that. So it's exactly the same math. What happens to our strike? That's a price. Prices get divided. It's the 100 strike. So notice your total value, you had one call worth 6, is worth 600. Afterwards, now again, you think, man, I got chopped here by 33%. It used to be trading for 6, but you're forgetting the package now controls 150 shares.
See, now you're getting more shares for
Now
the
you're getting
same.
more shares, so now it's still going to be worth 600.
Yeah.
And this can be another clue that you're dealing with an adjusted option. Let's say, oh, I want to buy this call. Market price says 4. I click on it and it says 600 plus commissions. And you're thinking, wait a minute, it should be roughly 4. Something's not right. Back out of that and find out what's going on. That's an adjusted option.
Just stop and think about it.
Yeah, this is an adjusted option. And that's not necessarily bad if it's just changing the strikes.
No, it's not bad at all.
But it can be if it's controlling 100 shares of this and 10 shares of that and cash in lieu. Those are usually very illiquid options. You don't want to be opening those. But if they call it an adjusted option just because it was 100 strike and now it's a 50, big deal. Big deal. So your total exercise value, we had the 150 call for 100 shares cost you 15,000. And you say, okay, I've got the 100 strike. It should only cost me 10,000 now. Nope, it's for 150 shares. However, now some people say, well, wait a minute. What if I only want 100 shares? Can I exercise for 100? No, you have to exercise in whole numbers of contracts. What would you have to do here, Stu? Exercise it and sell 50 shares.
Yeah, you can't change that part.
Yeah,
of it.
you're right. You can't change
that.
that.
Number is the deliverable number.
That's right.
We cannot change that.
You either exercise it or you don't. If you only want X number of shares, you're going to have to deal with that afterwards and sell them off. Yep. Okay, so anyway, does everybody see that's how easy it's always the same. First number divided by the second. Prices get divided, right? That's a market price. It gets divided. And the shares gets multiplied. That's a market price or a strike price. It gets divided. Okay? So anyway, it's going to be the same math. So now let's dive into reverse splits.
Interesting. This is
reverse splits are definitely kind of a different animal. And this is where you're going to see the numbers reversed. Now we have whole number or forwards, I guess you call them a forward, or whole number splits, we should call them. We also could have fractionals. However, it's very rare to
Very
have
rare.
fractional reverse splits.
Yeah, it is.
It would only be if you're going to do some type of a corporate restructuring, let's say with shares, common shares and maybe preferreds, and you have no mathematical choice. But remember what they're trying to do here. We're about to get delisted. Why would you say we want to bump up the price by 33% or by 10%? You wouldn't. You want to go up by 5-fold or 10-fold or 20-fold. So I would say 99% of the time, if it's a reverse split, it's going to be one. The first number is going to be a 1 followed by something. What do we do here? Easy. Divide the first number by the second. We get 0.10. That's our split ratio. But notice it's a fraction now. That's why the math still works. You multiply shares by our ratio. Shares get multiplied. Prices get what? Divided. That's all you have to remember, and the rest falls into place. So let's say we have 10 million shares outstanding. Our stock is trading for 5. What happens after the split? Shares get multiplied by 1/10, so they go from 10 million to 1 million. What happens to our price? Prices get divided. So if we take 5 divided by point, that's the same as multiplying by 10, we get a stock price of 50.
See that first number up there, everyone? See, it's 0.10.
Point, yeah,
It's not 10, it's 0.10.
0.10. And that's why sometimes if you understand the math, we could look at the reciprocals, but that gets confusing for people. I think this becomes that you always multiply shares and you divide prices. That just makes it
0.10,
super
everybody
easy.
knows what 0.10 is, right? I mean, it's 1/10, right? So
It's
1/10 of 10 million.
1/10, right? Dividing by
1
1/10 is the same as multiplying by 10. So what's going to happen here? Prior to the split, we had a market cap of a whopping 50 million, right? 10 million times $5 a share. What happens over here? Million shares times 50. Nothing's changed. The math is exactly the same. But now let's dive into how do reverse splits affect options. And again, this is where things can get a little weird. Mathematically, it's exactly the same. So reverse split, again, 1 comes first. Divide the first by the second, 0.10, multiply the number of shares the contract controls. Again, instead of thinking contracts, think shares. Shares get multiplied.
Now it's 1/10 of what you're used to, which is 100.
Right,
Is what you're
strikes
used to.
get
So
divided.
now it's 10.
So here's a reverse split. Let's say we have a stock trading at 4 and you own the $5 call trading for 30 cents. And I think this is more of what your coaching client was in. It was an out of the money option.
Mhm.
So you're sitting here thinking, man, now here's one thing to look at. If it's at the money before the split, any kind of split, it's got to be at the money after.
And
If
everyone,
it's
here's where that client's head was spinning off. So the stock now was like $30. It used to be 5 and now it's 30. And he owns the 5 call. Well, why didn't I make all this money on it?
right.
That was the discussion. Now it looks like it's $25 in the money.
Yeah. So remember that the math always remains the same. If it's 10% out of the money before the split, it's got to be 10% out of the money after the split.
It does.
Everything
And it will
stays
be.
the
And it
same.
is. Yeah.
Everything stays the same. So don't get hyped up and go, holy smokes, I just jumped into a bunch of money here. So now let's say the company announces a 1-for-10 split. Why? Well, they're probably afraid of getting delisted or they've lost
Want their stock
institutional
price up.
sponsorship.
Yeah.
They want to bump up the price.
Mhm.
So what happens? The stock, what happens to prices? We know prices get what? Divided.
Multiplied.
I'm sorry, prices are going to get multiplied. And now we're going to say, is your option in the money?
Negative.
Right. So we know that stock is going to be 4. Actually, I'm sorry, it's going to be divided by 1/10. So it's going to be $40, and you're thinking, wow, I've got the $5 call. I was out of the money before. Now I'm super far in the money. It's a huge windfall. Well, if it were only that easy, right? We should have to. We would only have to go out and buy reverse split options that are out of the money. So we should be able to intuitively say, no, that's not true. But the call used to control 100 shares, but what happens to our shares?
See, now you're not getting 100 anymore, everyone.
They get
you're getting,
multiplied by 1/10.
yeah,
Right.
and that's the adjustment that people miss.
Right.
Right, you're not getting 100 anymore. Now you're getting 10.
Yeah,
So
and
the
I think I
value
said
of it really remains the same.
right.
Right, you're
And I
just
think I
paying
said
less
that
for it.
backwards. Remember, prices get divided. So 4 gets divided by 1/10 is 40, but the shares gets multiplied. So you have
Or
100
4
times
times 10 is 40.
1/10.
Like, just, think of it logically, everyone. Reverse split. It's going from 4, it's going to higher.
That's right.
Right? Don't get lost in all this math. But we're going into great detail here. But don't get lost in all of it.
Right.
Just kind of remember what's going on here. They're doing a reverse split. They want the stock higher. How do I get there?
Yep.
I
And the
try to
only way to do that
multiply
and keep
it by
everything the
10.
same is to reduce the number of shares.
Yeah.
So you can't still control 100 shares. So the multiplier, here's another thing. Your multiplier remains the same. You might think that my multiplier is now 10, like when we did a 3 for 2, the multiplier went to 150. Not true here. This is the little wrinkle. The 100 multiplier stays the same. That's critically important. So here's our $5 call with the stock at 4, trading for a whopping 30 cents in the market. Now, the company announces a 1 for 10 split. What's going to happen? What gets multiplied here? Our $5 call gets, the number of shares gets what? Multiplied. So we go from 100 shares to 10 shares. So we got a reduction now. We're only at 1/10. What happens to prices, everyone? Prices get divided. 30 cents divided by 0.10 is 3. Now the stock was at 4. What happens? That's a price. What happens to prices? They get divided. And what happens? That increases that number. So the stock is 40. What happened prior to the split? Total value we had was $30. We had one call trading for 30 cents. But now we have the 5 call, we have it trading for $3, but it only controls 10 shares.
Which is the same $30.
So it's the same $30. Now, what's our total exercise value here?
Yeah, this is cool. Watch this.
This is where things get confusing, because people say, well, if I exercise one call of a $5 call, it's going to be $500. But if I do one call over here, it should only, because I'm only getting 10 shares. What they're going to say is that the exercise stays the same. It's a $5 call times 100. You have to pay 500, but you're only getting 10 shares. So if you pay 500, Stu, for 10 shares, what's your cost per share? $40.
500.
I'm sorry, it would be 50, and the stock is trading where?
$40.
40.
See,
So remember before,
the
it's the same, right? You had the stock at 4, you had the $5 call, now the stock's at 40, and you effectively are paying $50 per share with this call.
Right. Which is the
that's the catch. And people look at this and go, but I got the right to pay 5.
The catch is in the 10 shares, right?
The catch is in the 10 shares.
About 100 shares.
Yep.
So even though it looks like it's in the money, it's not. It's still out of the money.
Still way out of the money.
Which many times, the market might be like, no bid at 50 cents.
Exactly. And you're going, how can that be? The stock's at 40. How can this $5 call have no bid?
Because it's getting 10 shares. It's still out of the money. It's still out of the money. And synthetically, another side note, if you kind of look at the other side of the aisle and look at the puts, it'll confirm that. You'll see that those puts look like they're way out of the money.
Way out of the money are trading
actually in the money.
That's right. Yeah, we love our synthetics. They are very revealing.
We love our synthetics. Yeah.
Another little footnote here. What's your break even? Where would you need the stock to go? Well, if we have an effective cost of 50 with an effective price of 53. Stock's at 40. We need that stock to rise $13 just to break even. So it's still way out of the money.
Yeah.
Still way out of the money. So again, that's kind of the little wrinkle. Just remember that those shares are going to get multiplied by this ratio. But when it's a reverse split, you're now dealing with decimals, and so they get docked. So again, don't worry so much about the math. We just want to show you what's actually happening. Your broker will take care of it for you. Real quick as well, we're going to mention this. If you're ever in doubt, go to our friends over at theocc.com, click on Explore, click on Information Memos. And if you type that in there, so what was one, Stu, that you said had a upcoming split?
GameStop.
GameStop?
Let's just
So
look at
type
that,
in the ticker like GME, and
see
there
if
it
that's up
is.
there. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, and you
Wait,
click
no,
on it. Now, I'm not going to do it because it downloads a PDF, but if you do it, it'll show you all of the math that we just went through, and it's going to show you exactly what's going on. So if you ever have confusion about that, just go to the OCC's website, and you'll definitely see the details. But this will absolutely be the math behind it. So,
one quick note also. So I had another client who, the stock went way down.
right?
Um, it was like a $4 stock and it went to like 50 cents. And he said to me, well, when they reverse split it, I'll get my money back.
I
He's
wish.
thinking like we'll do a 50 cents, 20 for one, bring it up to, what would that be?
Right.
10 for one would be $5.
Go out car shopping. You're
$10,
going to be a windfall, right?
and that's how I'll get my money back. No.
Right. Because
No.
here's also something to think about. Would that be fair to the seller to say, look, you were correct. You sold this out of the money put. The thing has, or I'm sorry, an out of the money call, and it's collapsed. Hey, sorry, it's actually way in the money. See that it's not good. It's not bad. It's just changing the form. All of those relative positions in, at, and out of the money are exactly the same. So remember, the stock split cannot change the total value of the company, and it cannot change the total value of your shares either. But for options, the total position value cannot change, and your total exercise value cannot change. So those are some little checks to see if you're trying to step through the math to do it right. So let's answer it up here, Stu. Slide is not clicking. What's going on here? There we go. Chalk Talk, you own the $5 call, trading for 30 cents. I think we actually saw this one. Stock is trading for 4. The stock does a 1 for 10 split. How is your option adjusted? What do you think, everybody? What's the split ratio? 1 divided by 10. Shares get what? Multiplied by that? I'm sorry, shares get, the prices are going to get multiplied and your shares are going to get divided, right? So we're going to have, I'm sorry, I keep saying that backwards. The shares get multiplied, the prices get divided. So the options price, you're now going to have 10 times, right? It's going to be trading for 3. You're just dividing that by 0.10. And your strike is now 5. All right, so you had the, the strike stays the same, right? That's what it was before and after. But what are we changing here? We're changing the deliverable. The number of shares is going to get multiplied by.
The strike won't change.
The strike will not change. And that's why if you exercise it, your multiplier doesn't change. Again, it would be 1 call times 5 times 100, but you're only going to get 10 shares. All right. So anyway, we know that was a kind of a deep dive into everything you wanted to know and more about stock splits. Again, it'll all happen automatically in your broker's account, but at least you know why they're doing it. And with that, I think that's a good time to wrap. We'll see many of you at noon for Lunch Crunch today, part 2. And for everybody else, we'll see you next Thursday on Coach's Corner. We'll see you then.
All right.